Hi again folks, how you all doing? This is a Heljan Class 23 that was sent to me by Tony. He says it's not running too well and he's asked if I could take a look at it. So let's turn on the power. That's full power, so it's running very slowly. And it's pulling nearly 600 milliamps. So yeah, it's not running very well, it's very sluggish and it's pulling far too much current. Well, let's get it into the shed and we'll see what's up. Alright, well then, a Heljan Class 23, a little baby Deltic. Haven't looked at one of these before. I know what fun Hellions can be. Nice little model, we've got a missing handrail there. Other than that, this looks pretty much okay. The fact that it's running very slowly and pulling a fair bit of current, it's possible the motor's on the way out, but it could also be that just all the lubrication's all dried up and it just needs a good service. I'm just noticing that this underplate here isn't on right. You can just see there, it's not been clipped on properly. So I think somebody's been in here. Don't see any screws on the underside at all, but I can see some clips. Put that in there. And this should come out. Like so. So, quite simple for a Heljan actually. We've got the PCB on the top, everything's all plugged in. We can get in, we can get these bogies out, get a look at the gears. Let's see, does this, oh right, that's interesting. I've seen that before. The PCB isn't screwed in, it's kind of held in place with these rubber clips. I think if I pull that rubber clip back, yeah, so that opens up like that. So I think what I'm going to do is take a couple of photographs of this before doing anything else. Right, photographs taken. Take that out. Right, gets that out of the way. Oop, that's come off. Does this come off the end as well? That's fine. We'll just take them off, put them aside. Heljan bogies are never that easy to get out. They're held in place by the cover of the worm gear, which clips onto this part here, which slides back and forward between the two halves of the chassis, and then the drive shaft goes through that. But this part here is also clipped onto the bogie frame underneath. It's a little bit overcomplicated, and it's not really obvious how it all comes apart, and it's a real fiddle to get back together. But I've done it before, and we'll do it again, because I think that's going to be important with this, is to get into the gears and make sure they're clean and well lubricated. Yeah, it's one off. That should loosen that up, so I can now get drive shaft out, and that should now come out like so. And we'll get this one out as well, and then we'll test the motor. Just unclip that, get that off, and we can get a look at these gears. They're not all dried up. Oh, this is all falling apart, a bit like that SLW I worked on. It's a wee bit more obvious where things go. I don't like this axle, it seems to be pushed to one side. Just take it out, let's have a look at it, just have a look at the other ones. Yeah, let's see, well, yeah, it's kind of the same thing there. Please tell me this gear isn't split, but it should be smack in the middle. Oh, it's very loose. It's very loose. Yeah, it's split. If I just give this a quick scoosh. I don't know if you can see, but it's the gear is split. What's the other one like? That one's okay. I'm guessing it's split on this one as well. Yep, that one's split too. So that one's okay. That one's split. That one's split. And that one's split. So we've got 3 split drive gears. I'm not sure how available they are as spares. Spares for this model are pretty much unavailable. I've had a look on the Gauge Master website. It might actually be possible to glue these gears in place because they weren't really causing any clicking. Just wondering, a wee bit metal epoxy and glue them to the axles so they don't spin, and it might keep this running. But I really want to test this motor. Does this thing pull out? I think it does. Yeah. There we go. That just comes out. There's 2 of those. Okay. Now we can see what this motor does. I can certainly get a replacement for this. And get that from Peter's Spares. Right, I'm just jury rigging up a test circuit. Got the ammeter there. Get the endoscope on that. Okay, we're wired up. Let's turn on the power. What's it pulling? It's up to about 1 milliamp. At full power it's pulling about 1.5 milliamps. Well, I'm not seeing any evidence that suggests the motor's on its way out. So I think what we'll do is we'll see if we can get replacement drive gears or drive axles for this, and if they're not available, then we'll maybe try gluing these up, because if this had been clicking and clunking, yeah, I think we would have been in trouble. But it wasn't. It was kind of running quite smoothly, just very slowly. And I think that was partly because the gears were slipping to one side and causing the drive axles to be out of alignment. If we can fix them so they're nice and central, then I think this will run a lot better. So we'll go online and we'll see what we can find. Right, so this is actually about 2 weeks later. I had a good look online for replacement gears, but no, none available. So I got in touch with Andy from Aces 3D and sent him a photograph of these and the dimensions, and he's printed up some replacements for me. So hopefully these will work. I say hopefully because my past experience with 3D printed gears hasn't been very good. But we'll see. We'll give them a go. I'm also going to give these worm gears a good clean because they're a bit sticky. I think that's been another part of the problem. The worm gears were a bit stuck, just old dry lubricant. Where's my glasses? So these axles have a diameter of 1.9 millimeters. That was the dimension I gave Andy. So will they fit? Oh no, they're way too tight. So I'm going to drill them out. Just do this very carefully. I know this looks a bit precarious with my fingers, but I'm only going to drill very slowly. Okay, that went through. Is it going to fit onto this axle? And there we go, perfect fit. Might be an idea to put a spot of glue on these actually, just to make sure that they stay put. Right. Okay, there we go. Hopefully these will work okay. Let's just give these gears a clean up. We'll give it a bit of a scoosh, and we'll take the one gear out and give it a good clean. We'll get lots of silicone grease into the gears. Some of the worm gear. And I think we'll get some oil onto the bearings on that worm gear. So it's in there. Put these together. Now let's pop that in. And that one. Is this going to work? Turn the worm gear. And don't want to see anything locking up. Alright, so those axles have now had a full rotation. And that's looking good. These turning axles okay. And this one seems to be kicking a little bit. That's interesting. That's the original gear. I think what we'll do is we'll just get it all back together and see that it actually runs when it's fully assembled. It might be okay. Right, get this back together again. That's in. Getting the hang of that. Yeah, get this wire up. There we go. And then we clip this back into position. like so. Having the motor and PCB mounted with these big rubber clip things, it's quite an efficient way of doing it. But it does mean that, as the motor vibrates, the rubber absorbs some of the vibration, but it kind of causes it to make a bit of an odd noise, a kind of a growling noise, which is fine, Right, put the body on. Right. There we go. Right, let's go and pull it out of the shed. So the fact that this is back on the bench in bits kind of tells you that it didn't run too well. It was kind of kicking, and I just thought, no, the gears aren't quite right. I mean, it seemed to be fine on the test track, but on the layout, you could just see it just kicking a little bit. So what I've decided to try is I noticed that these internal gears were pretty much the same as the drive gear. So I've taken one of the gears out of there, put it on the axle, and put the 3D printed gear into there. I think that'll probably work better. Because I think it's less critical in there. I think the drive gear has to be absolutely spot on, and any imperfections could cause the kick. But I think the 3D printed gear in here won't have as I think it's there's more tolerance, I think, for any imperfections. That's the idea anyway. I did it to both axles on this bogie here, and it certainly seems to, just testing it on the battery, the wheels didn't seem to be kicking. So hopefully this will work. The other thing is that the locomotive makes quite a loud growling sound, especially going around the corners. Now, initially I put that down to the motor just vibrating, and that still might be the case. And I think when it's going around the corners, because the drive shaft's at a slight angle, I just, yeah. I mean, if it runs otherwise okay, I wouldn't be too worried about it, and there's maybe not much I can do about it. But I'd be interested to know anyone else that's got this model. Does it make quite a loud growling sound, especially around the corners? Right, let's get this back together with the 3D printed gear in the gearbox. I have to stress this is no fault of Asus 3D. Perhaps if I'd actually sent him a gear, it might have made a difference, but it's just the way gears are, especially drive gears, they have to be absolutely spot on. And I've had gears 3D printed before, and yeah, it's just not the same. I don't like that noise. Hang on a minute. Make sure this motor is centered. Yeah, it's a bit more. Get the big screwdriver in here. About that. That's better. So the position of the motor in there is quite critical. Right, before I put the body back on, I think I'm going to give this another wee run on the layout just like this, just to see what it does. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. Certainly there's no kicking. It's running quite smoothly. It is still growling going around the corners, but Yeah, I don't think there's much I can do about that. It's just the way the drive shafts work. New drive shaft might solve that, but I'm not going to go there. Let's just get this back together and we'll leave it at that. Alright, okay, I think we're done. Let's go and pull it out of the shed. Okay then, let's bring it out. So there we are, that's Tony's Heljan Class 23 back in action. Once again, split gears were the main issue, and once again replacements were unavailable. But thankfully I was able to get those gears printed by Aces 3D, and luckily the gears in the gearbox were interchangeable with the drive gears. The printed ones didn't work so well as drive gears, but they're absolutely fine in the gearbox. The model also needed the lubrication cleaned out and re-lubricated, dried sticky oil can bring a locomotive almost to a standstill, so that's why servicing is important. They don't service themselves, unfortunately. The model does growl quite loudly going round corners. I'd have been interested to try fitting new drive shafts, but I get the feeling it's more to do with the motor itself and the way the motor is mounted that's causing it. Other than that, this runs very nicely, as most Hellions do when they don't have split gears, burnt out motors, or dried up sticky oil. So I shall get this packed up and sent back to Tony. Catch you later, folks.